Wolverine is the X-Men's most beloved hero, a fighter for mutant rights, a protector of the innocent. But behind those adamantium claws lies a darker truth that Marvel doesn't advertise. Logan's kill count isn't just villains and bad guys. It's children, friends, lovers, his own offspring. From mind control massacres to berserker rage carnage, from mercy killings gone wrong to brutal accidents, Wolverine has spilled more innocent blood than most villains could ever dream of. Today, we're uncovering the victims no one talks about. The times when Logan's claws didn't discriminate, and the innocent paid the price. Buckle up, because what we're about to discover will change how you see Marvel's most dangerous X-Man forever. Let's get started. Rose O'Hara. Let's start with Wolverine's very first tragedy. Origin number 6. James Howlett, before he became Logan, before he became Wolverine, was just a sickly child with a childhood friend named Rose O'Hara. She was the first person who ever accepted him for who he was. When his mutant powers manifested and his bone claws emerged for the first time after killing his biological father, Thomas Logan, Rose stayed by his side. They ran away together, started new lives as cousins, tried to build something normal. Rose eventually fell in love with someone else, and Logan, being the good person he was at heart, accepted it. He was happy, she was happy. He'd moved on. Then Dog, Thomas Logan's son, and James's half-brother, arrived seeking revenge for his father's death. The confrontation happened in the street. Wolverine was winning, closing in on killing Dog with his claws fully extended, rage consuming him. Rose ran between them to stop the fight. She threw herself into the middle of a berserker rage, trying to save Logan from becoming a murderer. His claws went straight through her chest. Logan looked down at what he'd done, his claws buried in the body of his first friend, his childhood protector, the only person who'd ever truly accepted him. And something inside him broke. Here's what makes this kill so tragic. Rose died trying to save Logan's humanity. She wasn't caught in crossfire. She deliberately put herself between Logan and violence because she believed he was better than his rage. And in trying to prove her right, he proved himself monstrously wrong. After Rose's death, Logan fled into the wilderness and lived with wolves for years, convinced he was an animal who couldn't be trusted around humans. This wasn't just Wolverine's first innocent kill. It was the trauma that defined him for over a century. Every relationship he's had since carries Rose's ghost. Every time he gets close to someone, he remembers that his claws can't distinguish between enemy and friend when the rage takes over. Rose died believing in him, and Logan has spent 180 plus years trying to prove that belief wasn't completely misplaced. If accidentally killing his childhood friend wasn't traumatic enough, Wolverine's next innocent victim was a terrified teenager, and this time, it was premeditated murder. The Unnamed Teen Mutant in Ultimate X-Men 41. Written by Brian Michael Bendis, with art by David Finch, Wolverine committed what might be his darkest act. He executed a child, not in battle, not in self-defense. He hunted down a terrified teenager and murdered him in cold blood because Professor Xavier ordered it. The teenager, never given a name in the comic, known only as Jay, woke up one morning to an empty house. His parents were gone, just clothes on the floor where they'd been standing. He walked to school and found empty streets everywhere, abandoned clothes, even a dog collar on the sidewalk with no dog. Over 265 people vaporized in a matter of hours, reduced to ash by proximity alone. Jay's mutant power had manifested. His body secreted a toxic substance that vaporized all organic matter within a massive radius. He couldn't control it, couldn't turn it off. Everyone he loved, parents, neighbors, his dog, all dead just because he existed near them. When Jay realized what he'd done, he broke down completely. "This can't be my life. I can't live with this." Professor Xavier detected him with Cerebro and sent the only X-Man who could get close, Wolverine. Logan's healing factor made him immune to the death field. He found Jay hiding in a cave, terrified and guilt-ridden. They had a conversation. Logan brought beer, sat with the kid, explained that he was a mutant too, told him the truth would be covered up, so the public would never know a mutant killed 265 people. Because if that knowledge got out, it would be open season on all mutants everywhere. Then Wolverine explained what had to happen. If it ever became public knowledge that a mutant was responsible for these deaths, that'd be it for mutants. Jay understood. He was despondent, broken by guilt, barely protesting. "Just do it," he said. So Wolverine killed him. A mercy killing to prevent one boy's uncontrollable power from destroying mutant kind's future. But here's the horror. Jay was innocent. He didn't choose his power, didn't ask to become a walking death field. He was a victim of a genetic lottery who woke up one day to discover he'd accidentally committed mass murder just by existing. And Xavier's solution wasn't containment, wasn't research into suppressing the power, wasn't even trying to find a cure. It was execution. Send Wolverine to kill a child so the problem disappears. Wolverine carried out the order because he understood the math. One life versus the survival of an entire species. But that doesn't make it right. That makes it a trolley problem, where Logan pulled the lever and watched a terrified teenager die by his claws. Xavier used Wolverine's willingness to make impossible choices to avoid making the choice himself. And Logan has lived with that kill ever since. The memory of a boy who accepted death because he couldn't live with what he'd accidentally done. While the unnamed teen's death was a calculated execution, Wolverine's next massacre of innocents came from pure manipulation, and the body count was everyone he loved. Old Man Logan. In The Old Man. Logan's storyline, Marvel revealed Wolverine's darkest secret. He killed every single X-Man in a single night. Not in battle against Sentinels. Not stopping a villain. He murdered his entire family. Storm, Cyclops, Jubilee, Kitty Pryde, every student at Xavier's school, with his bare claws while they begged him to stop. The setup, Mysterio, working with a coalition of supervillains who'd coordinated a simultaneous attack on all heroes, used his illusion technology on Wolverine. When Logan woke up that night, the X-Mansion was under siege. Villains everywhere. The Hand, Bullseye, Omega Red, and dozens of costume threats swarmed through the halls. He heard screams, saw teammates being overwhelmed. His family was in danger. So Logan did what Logan does best. He went berserk. He tore through them with savage efficiency. Claws through chests, decapitations, dismemberment. He fought with the rage of someone protecting the people he loved most. Every kill was justified. These were murderers, assassins, terrorists trying to slaughter children. He was the last line of defense. The screaming in his ears only made him fight harder, more desperately. Then the illusion dropped. Logan stood in a pile of corpses. But they weren't villains. They were his teammates, his students, his family. Cyclops' body, Jubilee's. Kitty Pryde impaled on his claws. Storm decapitated. The children of Xavier's school were torn apart, and all of them had been screaming at him to stop, calling his name, begging him to recognize them. But through Mysterio's illusion, Logan had heard villain taunts instead of desperate pleas. Mysterio's plan was perfect psychological warfare. He'd turned Wolverine into a weapon and aimed him at the people he'd die to protect. And Logan had done the job thoroughly. No one survived. The X-Men were extinct because their most dangerous member couldn't tell reality from illusion when his protective instincts were triggered. After that night, Logan retracted his claws and never extended them again for decades. He walked away from being Wolverine, took a new name, just Logan, found a quiet place to live, and tried to forget that he'd murdered everyone who'd ever called him family. The guilt was so overwhelming it broke something fundamental in him. The part that believed he could be a hero, that his violence could protect people, that he deserved to be trusted. Here's what makes this unforgivable. It wasn't mind control. Logan was fully conscious, making tactical decisions, fighting with skill and precision. He just didn't know reality had been altered. And that means on some level, he'd been willing to kill that brutally all along. The berserker rage had always been there, barely controlled. Mysterio just gave it permission by making the targets look like acceptable victims. Every X-Man, death was on his hands. Every child screamed while his claws tore through them. Every teammate called his name while he murdered them. All of it is real. All of it is his choice. And no amount of "I was manipulated" changes the fact that he physically killed them all with his own claws while they begged for their lives. If killing the X-Men through illusion showed Wolverine's vulnerability to manipulation, his next innocent massacre came from direct mind control, and the body count was even higher. Enemy of the State. In Wolverine number 2025, 2004 to 2005, written by Mark Miller, Wolverine was captured by the Hand, a ninja death cult, and completely brainwashed. For months, he served as their personal assassin, killing dozens of innocent people on their orders. Government officials, journalists, whistleblowers. Anyone the Hand wanted dead, Logan killed without hesitation or memory. The brainwashing was complete. This wasn't Logan fighting internal programming. He was fully convinced he was working for the right side. The Hand had reprogrammed his entire personality and moral framework. Every assassination felt justified to him. Every innocent victim looked like a legitimate target. His healing factor made traditional mind control impossible to maintain. So the Hand used mystical techniques that rewired his actual thoughts and memories. Here's the horror. Wolverine is already a killer. His moral code usually keeps him pointed at deserving targets. But brainwashed, with his conscience completely suppressed, he became a perfect assassin. No hesitation, no mercy, no restraint. Just targeted killing executed with surgical precision by someone who's had a century of practice. The body count mounted, politicians murdered in their homes, activists are killed on the street. Reporters investigating criminal organizations were eliminated before their stories could be published. Each death was professionally executed with Wolverine's claws. And every person who died was innocent. People trying to expose corruption, protect the public, or simply doing their jobs. But here's where it gets personal. Wolverine killed his own friend. In Wolverine number 25, while still under brainwashing, Logan encountered Jean-Paul Beaubier, better known as North Star, one of the first openly gay superheroes in Marvel Comics and a longtime ally. Jean-Paul had been searching for Logan, trying to find his friend and bring him back. He found Wolverine. But Logan was still under Hydra's control. North Star didn't stand a chance. Logan's claws went through his chest before Jean-Paul could even finish saying his name. A friend who'd come to rescue him was killed by the very person he was trying to save. And it gets worse. North Star's body was stolen afterward, his brain harvested and used to lead a cult of death mutants, a fate arguably worse than death itself. When the X-Men finally captured Logan and broke the Hand's programming, he remembered everything. Every kill, every face, every moment of tearing innocent people apart while believing it was righteous work, including the moment he killed Jean-Paul Beaubier, a friend who'd risked everything trying to save him. The psychological impact was catastrophic. He'd spent his entire life trying to use his violence for good, to be a weapon pointed only at evil. And the Hand had proven how easily that weapon could be turned on anyone, including his own friends, who loved him enough to walk into danger on his behalf. What makes this particularly cruel is that Wolverine's healing factor meant he couldn't be left with merciful gaps in his memory. He remembered every single kill in perfect detail, every victim's final expression, every family member who'd walked in on the aftermath. North Star's face recognized him in that final moment. The weight of dozens of innocent deaths sat in his mind with crystal clarity, and there was no one to blame but himself, even if others had controlled his actions. While the Hand turned Wolverine into a mindless assassin for their own purposes, his history of mercy killings shows something darker. Sometimes Logan kills innocents with full awareness, because they ask him to. The Mongrels. In Wolverine, Vol 4, number 1016, Wolverine discovered he had children. Multiple children, scattered across the globe, were born from various relationships over his long life. Then he discovered something worse. He'd killed them all, one by one, without ever knowing they were his. The Mongrels were a group of highly trained warriors created specifically to kill Wolverine. Each one had been trained from birth to hate him, raised by mothers who'd been with Logan briefly decades ago. These mothers all had one thing in common. They'd been paid by Romulus, Logan's longtime manipulator, to seduce Wolverine, conceive his children, and then raise those children as weapons aimed at their father. The Mongrels attacked Logan throughout the storyline. Each fight was brutal, personal, and full of hatred. They knew who he was. They'd been preparing their entire lives for this. And Logan fought back, defending himself against what he thought were just another group of enhanced assassins trying to kill him. He didn't know who they really were. Couldn't smell his own genetics on them because Romulus had altered their scents. So Logan killed them, one by one, efficiently. His claws went through their chests, decapitations. The same violence he'd used 1,000 times against enemies. They were trying to kill him, so he killed them first. Self-defense, justified by any measure. Then Romulus revealed the truth. Every single one of them was Wolverine's biological child. Sons and daughters he'd never known existed. And Logan had just slaughtered his entire bloodline with his own hands. The psychological torture was complete. Romulus hadn't just wanted Logan dead. He wanted Logan to kill his own children, and then live with that knowledge. Every mongrel who'd attacked him had been fighting for reason. Their mothers had filled them with stories of an absent father who'd abandoned them, and Romulus had weaponized that abandonment into multi-generational revenge. Here's what makes this unforgivable. Logan did exactly what a good father should do when attacked. He defended himself. But Romulus had engineered a scenario where defending himself meant murdering his own bloodline. Every instinct that made Logan a survivor ensured he'd kill his children before they could kill him. The trap was perfect. Logan's competence as a warrior guaranteed his failure as a father. And these weren't just abstract genetic relatives. These were people who'd grown up knowing about him, raised with his legacy, trained in fighting styles that mirrored his own. They were his children in every meaningful way, except he never got to know them, never got to explain, never got to apologize for not being there. He just killed them, one after another, and only learned the truth when it was too late to take any of it back. The weight of that knowledge destroyed something in Logan. He'd spent his whole life trying to protect the innocent, to be better than his rage. And his own competence at violence had made him a killer of his own bloodline. Every justified self-defense kill against the Mongrels became a retroactive murder of his children. There was no one to blame but Romulus, and himself for being exactly what Romulus had crafted him to be. A perfect killer who couldn't be stopped even by his own flesh and blood. While the Mongrels died not knowing their father, Wolverine's next innocent kill was done with full knowledge and consent, which somehow made it even more tragic. Mariko Yoshida and Rachel Van Helsing. In Wolverine Vol 2 number 57, Logan committed what he considered his most unforgivable act. He killed the woman he loved. Not in battle, not by accident. She asked him to do it, and he granted her dying wish. Mariko Yoshida was the daughter of a Yakuza crime lord, and the only woman Wolverine ever formally proposed to. They'd been engaged, planning a life together, navigating the complicated intersection of her family's criminal empire and his superhero obligations. She represented the possibility that Logan could have something normal, a wife, maybe even peace. Then an assassin named Reiko poisoned her with deadly blowfish toxin. The poison was specifically engineered to be slow, agonizing, and absolutely fatal. No cure, no treatment, just days or weeks of increasing pain as her nervous system shut down piece by piece. Mariko knew what awaited her: paralysis, suffocation, organ failure, all while fully conscious and aware. So she called for Logan. Not to save her, there was no saving, to end it. She asked him to use his claws one final time, to grant her a quick death, rather than the prolonged torture the poison promised. "I need you to do this," she said. "I need it to be you." Logan refused at first. Couldn't imagine pushing his claws through the woman he'd planned to spend his life with. But Mariko was insistent. She'd already accepted death. She just wanted to die with dignity, on her own terms, killed quickly by someone who loved her, rather than slowly by poison administered by an enemy. So Logan did it. He extended his claws, the same adamantium blades he'd used to kill hundreds of enemies, and pushed them through Mariko's chest, piercing her heart. Quick, clean, the mercy she'd asked for. And then he held her body while she died, feeling her life end on his claws the same way Rose's had decades earlier. But Mariko wasn't the only mercy killing that haunted Logan. In Uncanny X-Men Annual number 1982, Wolverine killed Rachel Van Helsing, a woman who'd spent her entire life hunting vampires. Rachel's parents were murdered by Dracula himself, leaving her scarred and dedicated to a singular mission: destroying the undead creatures that had destroyed her family. For years, she was a hero in her own right, saving countless lives by eliminating vampire threats. Then she got bitten, turned into the very thing she'd hunted for decades, the creature she'd devoted her life to destroying. Rachel Van Helsing, vampire hunter, became Rachel Van Helsing, vampire, and she couldn't live with it. She found Wolverine, someone she knew would understand what needed to be done, someone strong enough to follow through, and she asked him to kill her. Not because she'd done anything evil yet, not because she'd hurt anyone, but because she knew what she would become, what the hunger would eventually make her do. She asked for death while she was still herself, before the monster took over completely. Logan tried to refuse, tried to argue there might be a cure, that maybe she could fight it. But Rachel was adamant. "I won't become what I hunted. I won't let that be my legacy." So Wolverine did what mercy demanded. His claws went through her heart. Another innocent person was killed by Logan's hands at their own request. Another face was added to the collection of mercy killings that felt like murder. Here's what makes these kills so devastating. They were the right choices. Mariko was dying regardless. Rachel would have become a monster. Logan gave both women the gifts they asked for, quick ends on their own terms. But right choice doesn't mean easy choice or forgivable choice. He still killed them. His claws still pierced their hearts. And the final images they saw were his face contorted in grief while he murdered them at their own requests. After Mariko's death, Logan didn't move on. He couldn't. Every year on the anniversary of her death, he hunted down Matsuo Tsurayaba, the man who'd ordered the poisoning, and cut off a piece of his body. Not to kill him, to make him suffer the way Logan suffered. Year after year, piece by piece, until Matsuo was a dismembered wreck kept alive through medical intervention, just so Logan could continue the torture. This is what mercy killings do to Logan. They don't feel like mercy. They feel like murder. Even when everyone agrees it's the right thing. Even when the victims beg for it. Even when refusing would cause more suffering. Logan still sees himself as a killer who pushed his claws through people who trusted him enough to ask for death. And that knowledge haunts him more than any enemy he's ever killed in rage. Because mercy killing requires love, trust, and respect. And Logan violated all three by doing exactly what was asked of him. Team X, Black Ops. In Wolverine Vol 7, number 8 to 18, revelations emerged about Logan's work with Team X, a CIA Black Ops unit operating during the Cold War. The missions were classified. The body counts were massive, and not everyone who died was actually an enemy. Team X consisted of Wolverine, Sabretooth, Maverick, Silver Fox, and others, all enhanced operatives doing the CIA's dirtiest work in the 1960s. Their missions included assassinations, regime changes, false flag operations, and eliminating threats that turned out to be journalists, activists, and diplomats who'd stumbled onto information the US government wanted buried. Here's the horror. Logan thought he was serving his country, thought every kill was necessary, thought the people he murdered were genuine threats to national security. And some of them were actual enemy agents, arms dealers, terrorists. But mixed in were civilians, innocents who'd learned too much, diplomats negotiating peace when the CIA wanted continued conflict, local activists opposing American-backed dictators. One specific mission haunted Logan. They'd been ordered to eliminate an American diplomat who'd been negotiating unauthorized peace talks in the Middle East. The CIA labeled him a traitor, compromising national security. Team X followed orders. Logan personally killed the diplomat and his security detail. 8 people total, all Americans, all doing what they believed was right. Years later, Logan discovered the truth. The diplomat's peace talks would have prevented decades of conflict. The CIA killed him not because he was a traitor, but because peace wasn't profitable. And Logan's claws had been the weapon that ensured continued warfare, continued weapon sales, and continued American military presence in the region. The math is staggering. Team X conducted dozens of operations over multiple years. Each operation averaged 5 to 20 casualties. Conservative estimates put Logan's Team X body count over 300 people, and at least 30 to 40% of those were later revealed to be innocents, civilians, or people whose crimes were fabricated by intelligence agencies for political purposes. What makes this unforgivable is the institutional nature of it. This wasn't brainwashing. This was Logan willingly working for a government that lied to him, aimed him at targets they claimed were threats, and used his claws to murder anyone inconvenient to American foreign policy. He trusted the system, believed in the mission, and that trust was weaponized to make him a mass murderer. When Logan finally learned the truth, that Team X had been used to eliminate obstacles to corporate interests as much as genuine threats, he walked away from government work entirely. But walking away doesn't undo the kills, doesn't bring back the diplomats, the journalists, the activists whose only crime was inconveniencing powerful people. Every one of them died on Logan's claws while he thought he was protecting his country. The CIA's manipulation of Team X revealed the darkest truth about Wolverine. He's the perfect weapon because he wants to serve a cause larger than himself. Give him a mission he believes in, and he'll kill anyone you point him at without question. That loyalty, that need to believe his violence serves good purposes, has been exploited by governments, organizations, and individuals for over a century. And the body count of innocents killed by a loyal, trusting Logan is higher than anyone wants to calculate. While government manipulation showed how easily Logan's loyalty could be weaponized, his final massacre of innocents came from the simplest source. He lost control of himself completely. Berserker rage casualties. Throughout Wolverine's publication history, there's a pattern that appears repeatedly, but gets glossed over in the heroic narrative. Logan's berserker rages don't discriminate. When the animal takes over, everyone nearby becomes a potential casualty, including innocents. In Origin 2, while living with wolves in the Canadian wilderness, Logan encountered Essex's, Mr. Sinister's, expedition team. They'd released gas to drive him out of hiding. When Logan emerged, claws extended, he tore through multiple research assistants and hired hands, people who were just doing a job, following orders, with no idea they were provoking a feral mutant. Several of Essex's men died where they stood, their bodies left in the snow. They weren't criminals. they were scientists, porters, security personnel, working class people earning a paycheck. And Logan killed them in a mindless rage he couldn't even remember afterward. And this wasn't an isolated tragedy. The same pattern repeats across his life. There are the bar fights where he's drunk and provoked, and bystanders who step too close end up slashed or impaled before he snaps back to reality. There were the early underground cage fights where he hit an opponent a fraction too hard and killed them instantly, long before he understood the strength behind his own fists. There are missions where terrified civilians ran in the wrong direction, and his berserker state couldn't distinguish panic from threat. Even in crowded combat zones, one reflexive swing, one defensive slash, turned someone he meant to rescue into another casualty. And every time Logan is ambushed or overwhelmed, his instinct fires faster than his mind can catch up, leaving innocents to pay the price for his reflexes. The berserker rage is Logan's defining characteristic, but it's also his greatest liability. When it triggers, he operates on pure animal instinct. Eliminate threats, defend territory, destroy anything that moves aggressively. And the tragic irony is that humans move aggressively when they're terrified and running for their lives. What makes this truly unforgivable is that Logan knows all of this. He knows the rage makes him dangerous to everyone around him, yet he continues putting himself in situations where it can trigger, because he wants to be a hero, wants to believe the beast can do good, wants to believe he can control it. But he can't always control it. And when control slips, innocent people die. Not in massive numbers. Logan usually pulls himself back before it becomes a slaughter, but enough that the pattern is undeniable. Enough that the wrong place, wrong time excuse no longer holds. The animal inside him has killed people who simply made the mistake of being near him when the beast came out. Every teammate who's worked with Logan long-term understands this risk. It's why some X-Men keep their distance. It's why certain missions specifically leave him out. It's why Cyclops has contingency plans titled Wolverine Goes Feral. They all know the truth. He's a loaded weapon with a faulty safety, and Logan knows it too. Every innocent killed during a berserker rage becomes another weight he must carry. Every civilian casualty reinforces the fear he's had his entire life. That maybe he is just an animal with claws. That maybe the hero persona is a story he tells himself to feel human. And that everyone who's ever been afraid of him might have had a reason to be. Wolverine's darkest moments aren't about villains. They're about the innocent lives lost because the weapon couldn't stop being a weapon. And that's the burden he carries more than claws or adamantium. The memories he can't heal from. If this video opened your eyes to the darker side of Marvel's deadliest X-Man, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which innocent death you think haunts Wolverine the most. And when you're ready for more, check out our deep dive into the worst things the Avengers have ever done, because even the greatest heroes have blood on their hands.